Hey everyone, we are wrapping up our first week of the challenge. So I'm really excited about it. I wanted to show you how I use OneNote and also how I break down job descriptions. So you may or may not know this about me, but part of my background is working in the behavior programs in schools. So I really look at job description and resumes from a behavioral perspective to see kind of what language are we saying that supports our brand or creates a brand. And with that, I really do go in and break down a job description based on what type of language are they using, which means what type of language should I then use in my resume to best represent myself, and also potentially identify if a position may not be the right fit for me. So I want to walk you through this. I'm currently in OneNote. I have really bad migraines, so I always have the Microsoft Office and Google, everything set up on a dark mode. So yours may or may not look like mine, but I have dark mode set up. This is a project manager role that I found just doing a Google search, project management near me, because most of us can relate to the language in project management. So I wanted to kind of walk you through how I would break this down to identify if it was a good fit or not. A couple of things here. I would insert, just going to file, insert file printout or insert file attachment. I always attach, and the file that I use to apply for the position, right? So that way, if I came back to this later, let's say they asked me to interview, all of my information and notes would be right here inside of OneNote. Over here, I would make notes of the salary range. If I knew that, or once I found that out, is it full-time or contract? What's the location? Do I know the recruiter's name? Can I find a recruiter on LinkedIn? Also, any contact information I have, email addresses, phone numbers. If I ask the question, how do you prefer for me to follow up with you? That would be another great place to notate that. Anybody's LinkedIn profile that you can find, and if you have mutual connections that may be able to help kind of network you into the opportunity, I would notate those as well. I do make note of reviews. I do not make my decisions based on how somebody is ranked on Glassdoor, but I do like to notate that, digging deeper into that job description to see if it is a good fit for me and what do other people say about the company culture. Okay, so just wanted to share that with you. The 3.3 is the average. 316 different reviews made that up. Indeed, there's 2,403 reviews, and then 3.2 is the average. So let's dive in a little bit into the language on this resume. I set up a key. There are 4 main personality types that I utilize in job seeking. These would be the driver, amiable, expressionist, and analytical. So the drivers are your type A, kind of go to get it done people, not necessarily type A, but more often associated with that. They are take charge, lead the way, they champion results, they want to be part of winning teams. Those are our drivers. Amiables want everybody to get along together. They want people to feel comfortable at work, enjoy the work environment, be engaged, and they celebrate community. Expressionists are our storytellers. They want to believe in the why and the mission. They want to be engaged, actively tell the story, understand the story. So they would be our expressionists. Analyticals are our data-driven decision makers. They want to know the process, the policy, and they are going to stick with it. Then I make note of any industry-specific language. That way I notate if they use a lot of industry-specific language, most likely they're going to want somebody who is familiar with the industry. I make note through underlining of any keywords, and then I have a star if something is super important that I want to remember. In this job description, I was very interested to see how they introduced the position. So as a project manager with the Dr. Pepper team, so KDP, T&W team, so they're using words that are supportive and amiable. You will lead strategic. So we've got a lot of things going on. Leadership is driver, strategic is analytical. So from this first part, we don't know yet. But immediately they dive into industry-specific language for manufacturing roadmaps, optimizing inventory, packaging line layouts. These are very strategic, analytical, industry-specific terms. So in this top section, before you even get into what you will be responsible for, notate that they have already introduced this position as a strategy type of role. You'll be responsible for leading assigned projects from concept to implementation, okay? So we're not hearing a lot of really innovative, kind of creative language. You're talking about assigned projects. You're talking about somebody who can come in and lead the way. We're seeing some supportive language. I'll make note about that. They're kind of expressing that they're looking for a leader, not a dictator. So it's more supportive than true driver language like champion results. They're really using words like work with, coordinate, communicate, manage dependencies across teams. It's really kind of this cross-functional kind of language that we're seeing. Notate when you see words that really stand out that you feel like you should have on your resume, like external vendors and internal business functions. So they're partnering with these cross-functional teams that include third-party vendors, they include different business functions, and the goal is you're championing the results to lead that to successful outcomes. On that note, it is a driver position. What you will do, oversee strategic projects. There's your analytical. So they're looking for a leader who can make data-driven decisions, who can lead change, who can lead results, but not necessarily rock the boat. Lots of industry-specific language here: supply chain, logistics, transportation, warehousing. So they're really looking for somebody who understands warehousing and understands supply chain and logistics, okay? Communicate would be more kind of your expressionist language, synchronization of work, successful implementation. Those are more of your almost expressionist storyteller kind of language, but it's really, if you notice, a very small part of this. As we dig down deeper into what they describe here, it really takes shape into this driver kind of analytical piece, but definitely driver supportive language. So they're looking for cross-functional collaboration. It's very clear here on communicate and or coordinate with senior leaders, external customers, and internal stakeholders. So this is where on your resume, I would definitely talk about communicating strategic leadership. I would talk about status updates, how you keep people in the loop, leading scrum meetings, leading team meetings, town halls. All of that would be supportive of what they're asking for in this role. And when you're ensuring adherence to quality and environmental health and safety standards, that's where it comes in of, it's a warehouse. You have to understand the mindset here. Safety minded, not afraid to stand up and say something if it's out of compliance or unsafe, to protect company assets. It has to be the goal here, right? So not afraid to address something quickly, resolve it, and move forward. It's still supportive, but the main goal, if we have to choose between making people happy and protecting company assets, that has to be our goal, right? So again, it's a warehouse environment, safety minded. You're seeing language here that supports that. Proactively ensure synchronization of work. I like that phrase, synchronization of work. It is expressionist, but it's also going to be your amiable. It's synchronized, it's together, it's unified. Those are words that support that they're looking for a leader that's not going to steamroll over everyone, but is going to come in and really engage people and champion collaboration and engagement, right? Then we go into develop solutions. We're architecting solutions here. So think about innovation in a very limited scope, but driving change, influencing others, supportive driver language, leadership without steamrolling, influence the overall objective of long-range goals. Then there's your supply chain language again. Follow policies and procedures. There's your analytical, safety conscious. We go through and we break it down. It'll tell us, here's more excellent influence communication skills when we get down to the requirements. When they say things like bachelor degree or equivalent required, if they stop there, I would tell you that a bachelor's degree is optional, but because they threw in that they prefer a master's, it's going to be very, very, very far stretched to get them to take somebody who does not have a degree at all when they prefer a master's. They prefer is a master's with 8 years of experience. If you have 8 years of experience but no degree, this is probably not going to be a good fit. I would say you need closer to 12 years of experience with a bachelor's, and maybe we could get through it if you have 20 years of experience without a degree. If, next line, you have project management professional certifications. These are going to be your PMPs, your industry recognized. I would say you want Lean Six, manufacturing type of certifications that really say, I know exactly how to solve this problem. Experience with manufacturing, guys, this is not optional. And the language throughout the resume is supportive of this, that we would want to not only have the experience, but in detail talk about collaborating with supply chain, talk about how you worked with logistics, talk about how you improved processes in manufacturing facilities. Experience in manufacturing is going to be absolutely required. And then notate, it says, working with senior leaders on strategic level programs is going to be required. Again, so you've got this data-driven leader who can get along with people and isn't going to completely rock the boat. So things like, if you came in and say that I am a change agent, that may or may not be received well. If you say I'm a disruptor, chances are they're going to see you as a risk here. So if you have in-depth knowledge of program and project management principles, that needs to be reflected on your resume. You need experience working in multiple geographical areas as well as cross-functional teams. You need the ability to multitask in a fluid environment. This is where you're going to use words like competing deadlines, changing priorities. They're telling you that they are looking for someone who is not going to be sidelined by all of a sudden our priority shifted or the project scope changed or something happened. They have competing deadlines, they have shifting priorities, it's a moving target sometimes, and they need somebody who's not derailed by that. If that completely makes you have anxiety, this may not be the role for you. And then when you're navigating partnerships with team members who are resistant to change, that's the language that they're talking about. If this was something you're like, oh, I'm up for that challenge, I could do it, great. Then they go through this really cool thing where they basically are giving you the cliff notes for your research about the company. They're very detailed. And one thing I did want to note on this was that down in the associated topics, so there was like a chief program officer, which kind of is going to tell you a little bit about the level that they're looking for. Another thing they said was relationship manager. So again, it goes back to that supportive leadership kind of branding. So if I am doing a job search on Google, I'm copying over my job descriptions and analyzing them in OneNote so that if somebody reaches back out to me, then I have the details to go back and have great conversations about this and be able to ask good questions and access this information very quickly. I have the resume I used. I have my notes from any calls that we've had. All of this right here inside of OneNote. I would do a different tab for your for each job, and then it'll show up in your table of contents. It's also searchable. So you can schedule things this way. You can add date and time. You can even record audio or video. So maybe you sent a thank you note. You can actually embed that here. You can attach files and spreadsheets. This is really, it can be just this notebook. So think about it is in the 90s when I would have these color-coded notebooks. Okay, secret. It's 2020 and I still have a color-coded notebook for fantasy football where it has 32 color-coded tabs that I run stats on players, and it's not healthy, but I do it. So it becomes my color-coded notebook for managing my job search and keeping in line with how I break down job descriptions, identify the language that they need on a resume, and then if I'm going to tailor my resume for the job description and I write my resume in the Maximize Your Job Search format, keep in mind that I'm writing this resume based on several factors. How does it get through the ATS? How do we skim resumes? So this is where studying literacy has come into play. We skim top to bottom, not left to right. If we have these huge empty white spaces it creates. It draws our attention to that right side, and it really does change. It's like a break in concentration and gives people a stopping point that they may or may not pick up from. So if I have like this group of text that all goes together, I can say, okay, I'll tackle this. But if I give these gaps and spacing, then it creates stopping points like a commercial break. And sometimes we don't come back from commercial breaks. So if I am tailoring my resume for the project manager job description, I'm going to come here and I'm going to go into strategic IT project management. Did I tell the story about being a cross-functional leader who championed engagement, who fostered cross-functional collaboration? Did I tell that story? So if I'm tailoring my resume for the job description, this piece here, the core competencies and achievements, then becomes the only part I really have to tailor. I might make some edits to my summary at the top, but then I don't have to change every single bullet point, because with every single core competency, it should be supported by evidence. So what is my claim to being a dedicated servant leader? By building and leading and mentoring and coaching cross-functional teams of 30 people or more, right? Which resulted in, it's an achievement, resulted in increased organizational profitability, efficiencies in communication. I could add in numbers there, which is the best option to know how your job impacted business. So if I then factor that all in together, I can edit this piece in 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. So I've taken 15 minutes to break down a job description. I've taken 15 minutes to edit a resume based on what I found in the job description, and then I submit it and move on. Don't overthink it, guys. If you do it this way, it will be much less stressful than trying to rewrite your resume over and over and over. Let me move this little video so I can go back over quick parts, since somebody pointed out yesterday that that it didn't show up well. So if I go into the insert menu over here, there is explore quick parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually highlight this. So I'm highlighting my job, and I'm going to save selection to quick parts gallery. I'm going to say MYJS job description, and I'm going to save it to quick parts, and great. So if I save this, so you could have different versions of those bullet points depending. I know I say don't edit bullet points. I know for some of us who are transitioning to new fields, then you feel the need to change those bullet points, and I get it. But if I was going to insert a quick part here, then I could insert the MYJS quick part. It's formatted, it's ready to go, and I can very quickly navigate how I would need that information on there. So very easy to use, very easy to set up, and this is a great way to set up different core competencies that you could just plug and play in and have those ready and available to tailor your resume quickly, okay? So know your business, know how what you do impacts business, know how what you've done supports where you're going. So when you're painting this picture for, I've done this, it enables me to do that, you build these core competencies. These are my transferable skills. Then when I go down to the bullet points, does each bullet point support that transition, or am I just giving random facts that may not be helpful? Okay, so I hope that helps. I will get this video up and running, and then I hope you guys have a great weekend. There will be just a question of the day tomorrow, and then we will have a couple of things to do on Sunday just to prep you for the week, but check in maybe, you know, at some point tomorrow and some point Sunday, and I'll have everything up and running. This has been an amazing week. Thank you for taking this journey and allowing me to take it with you. I am here to support you. I will talk to you very soon. Bye.